I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to our combined presentation on this Election Day special of Operation Freedom Briefing and Dave versus the MSM. We have several different audiences. We have our radio audience that listens to our live Operation Freedom radio show every Sunday from 2 to 5 Eastern, broadcasting out of our Freedom Bunker at Wham Talk 1600 studios in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, Michigan. You can stream that show live by going to davejanda.com and hitting the Listen Live button on Sundays from 2 to 5 Eastern. Great guests, great analysis. Biased, yes, the best radio show in the country on weekends. I am actually, that's the feedback I get because of the quality of the guests and the quality analysis we provide every week. The podcasts are part of our subscription platform in addition to the 4 to 5 other video format shows I do every week at davejanda.com. Join us, 30 cents a day, $9 a month, single greatest bang for the buck on all the internet. We are combining this presentation with our other audience from our YouTube audience from Dave versus the MSM. And we're combining it again with our radio audience. Again, all different audiences, but we want to get this message out across all platforms. And today's message on Election Day is, first, vote. If you didn't vote early, well, today's the day. Fire ahead. And educate and empower as many people as you know that may not have all the facts at hand before they go vote. But vote. And today's presentation is about, on this election day, hopefully not an installation day as we saw in previous years, in particular 2020, 2022, 2018, but this is about putting, and actually some before that as well, putting Americans' freedom first today. Let's start with a quote from Elon Musk. He's gotten a lot of grief for it. Now, usually when you get so much grief, it's because you're over the target. I believe he was over the target on this. I've never materially been active in politics before, but this time I think civilization as we know it is on the line. Hyperbole? No. I think he's accurate. If we want to preserve freedom and meritocracy in America, then it comes down to the fact that Trump must win. No one disagrees with everybody or anyone across the board. All of us have issues with everybody in politics. And personally, I do have some issues with Donald Trump, as I've been very outspoken about. But on the other hand, I agree with Musk on this. There is no alternative. To continue with the freedom stripping agenda that has been thrown in all of our faces for the last 3.5 years, and frankly, during Trump's first term, he was so targeted with propaganda and had to defend against it that it somewhat paralyzed his 4 years. And then we had the 8 years before that with the emissary of the intelligence agencies, because that's what he was and is, to do the globalist work, Obama. And before that, we had the globalist Bush, W. And before that, we had the globalist Clintons. And before that, we had the globalist H.W. Bush. Oh, it's amazing our constitutional republic has held up in spite of that, of decades of the globalist cult getting control of the reins of power and trying to strip the freedom and liberty of every American. And the key on this election day is, yes, to put Americans, every American's freedom first. The Reader's Digest version of this election, I think, boils down to the following. And let's use Helen Keller, who was visually, sight-wise, blind, but had incredible vision. Vision of the society around her, of the people around her, of people she didn't even know that she actually, even though she couldn't see herself reaching out, was reaching out and touching them. Helen Keller did not have visual sight, but she had an incredible vision. And the society latched on to her vision. In this election, Harris has visual sight, unlike Helen Keller. But she has a limited and distorted vision that adversely has, and if elected will continue to have, an adverse effect on every American's future. When it comes to Donald Trump, he too has visual sight, as does Harris. But he has a different vision of the future. A vision that entails diminished inflation, diminished government interference, no wars, a safe and secure border, increasing and ensuring the safety of every American. A good example in the election season was what happened in New York City at a charity dinner called the Al Smith Dinner. It is a event, and in particular has its prominent event every 4 years, where the respective candidates, a Republican and Democrat, come and make fun of each other and also make fun of themselves. And it benefits the Catholic charities in New York City. And in particular, this year, I believe they raised $10 million, and it was directed, as it always is, toward benefiting unwed mothers, benefiting orphans, benefiting families in need. Wonderful recipients of this support. But what happened at that dinner really focuses on each of the candidates' visions. Kamala Harris was obviously blind to the charities, the people that benefit from these charities, because she didn't show up. She did not show up in person, which is the first time it has happened in 40 years. The last person who did not show up was Walter Mondale in 1984, and he lost 49 states. Because of not showing up at the dinner? No, but it was a factor. Because it showed he was blind, as Harris is blind to what's really going on. She sent a Saturday Night Live type video that was really bad. Some people say, well, it showed she was tone deaf. It showed she was tone deaf and she was blind to reality. We don't need somebody like that in the Oval Office. We've already had too much of that. The crowd. I believe there were hundreds and hundreds of people in the audience. I had some friends who were there. And they tell me that the makeup was really no different than other years where this occurred. And about 80 to 90% of people in that room would be considered globalists. The message she brought forward in that video, they were booing. Not because it took on the globalists, it actually pandered to the globalists. It was so off the charts and so divergent from what that Al Smith dinner was dedicated to the charity focusing on orphans, on families in need, and unwed moms and abused women in shelters. Booing. Bought off lamestream fake media is not going to tell you that. Trump's presentation, I was told that when he was done, and if you watch the dais, even Letitia James, who's been involved in this targeted, malicious, unethical prosecution of Trump, gave him a standing ovation. The dais gave him a standing ovation. And I'm told the crowd gave him a standing ovation. And 80 to 90% of them were not Trump supporters. Someone who was the comedian and master of ceremonies of the event, Jim Gaffigan from Saturday Night Live, who has best been described as a, quote, never Trumper in the past. The fact that Harris didn't show was blind to what this organization is all about, this charitable event. Said the following, quote, "The Democrats, globalists, have been telling us Trump's reelection is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris," end quote. His words. Trump's theme is Make America Great Again. And Kamala Harris has changed. It's morphed over time. It was, let's turn the page. Turn the page from what? The fact that you're vice president currently? Yeah, well, and we want to turn that page, sister. A new frontier, a new beginning. What? You're part of the present. They're acting like they're not in power right now and have been for 4 years. This train wreck, whether it's the border or the stagflation in this economy or the safety and security or these endless wars they've been pushing and funding. You know, they have $200 billion for that World Economic Forum dweeb in Ukraine, but they don't have any money for the people in Lahaina or in East Palestine, any support. They don't have any support for the people in Southeast United States with the hurricane relief. They let them die there, which is another issue we've gotten into in the past and will a little bit today, the abandonment agenda. Vote for that. How does that sound? You mark that ballot for Harris and Walz, you're voting for abandonment, and you're the next person to be abandoned, if you haven't been already. But here outside, we're not far from Detroit, where we're based, and in the People's Republic of Ann Arbor, Harris recently had an event, and she had a rapper flying in their private jet. Wait a minute, what about this green agenda? Yeah, well, they can have private jets, but they don't want you flying commercial. They don't want you flying in. Oh, no. They don't want you driving a gas. They don't want you driving a car. Oh, no. They don't. No gas part. But they can do whatever they want. That's their vision, distorted vision of the world. This Lizzo comes in town in her private jet. Democrats cheer as Lizzo says, quote, "The whole country should be like Detroit," end quote, if Kamala wins. This from Zero Hedge. Rapper Lizzo boarded a private jet ahead of a Kamala Harris campaign rally in Detroit, telling the less fortunate than her voters, quote, this is what Lizzo, quote, "This is how a bad BIT saves democracy. You hoes couldn't even spell democracy," end quote. There's a vision for you. Even before Lizzo arrived in one of America's most dangerous cities, Detroit, run by far-left Democrats for generations, she insulted everyone. Why a private jet, if the imminent global warming disaster is so dire, is she utilizing? Why? Yeah. But it gets even better. Because at the rally, Lizzo told the crowd, quote, "I'm so proud to be from Detroit. They say if Kamala Harris wins, the whole country will be like Detroit," end quote. Okay. Detroit. 30% of Detroit lives below the poverty line. Their unemployment rate is over 3 times the national average. Detroit has one of the highest crime rates in the country. There are parts of Detroit that have been renovated, rejuvenated. But there's a big chunk of Detroit? No. That it looks like what's currently happening to the Gaza Strip as far as the demolition of it. So here's the vision. Make America great again from Trump. And the other visual they want you to say, if you're Harris, make America Detroit. And speaking, that same weekend, Trump ended up at a McDonald's at the French fry machine and at the customer service window, the drive-up window. And actually, in my lifetime, and I'm old, it was one of the most brilliant political moves someone could make because he was actually trolling Harris, who has claimed in all of her ads that are still running here in Michigan that on Election Day, that she worked at McDonald's. No, actually, the McDonald's companies come out and say we have no evidence of that. And so in that hour and a half that Donald Trump was in McDonald's working the French fry machine and working the drive-up window, he worked more than Kamala Harris ever had. Zero Hedge left McTriggered after Trump does fun publicity stunt. Donald Trump poked fun at Kamala Harris's dubious claim that she worked at McDonald's and made fries by going to McDonald's and making fries plus working the drive-up. McTriggered. While most of those in the country thought it was a fun pre-election publicity stunt, it really triggered the left, which didn't know what to do. It's my understanding that Harris went absolutely off the rails about it. And the reason is because it highlighted that what she is trying to deliver to the public is smoke and mirrors when it comes to a vision. It exposed her. It exposed her to the core. Just as her running mate, right? With his stolen valor, with his lies about his DUI, with the lies about him being in Tiananmen Square, with his lies about his... it's all a lie. That's the vision. A false vision. Distorted and false. But as inspiration to go to the polls and to get as many people to the polls and vote for a vision that supports America and Americans as opposed to the globalists. Person Jason posted this on Twitter. I can't stand Donald Trump. He's braggy. He insults people for no reason. He's just a brutal personality. But my mind's made up. I'm voting for him. And here's why. He puts Americans and their well-being first. Kamala does not and will not. He will bring Elon Musk into his cabinet to be the efficiency czar and get rid of waste. This alone may be the best single reason to vote for Trump. He will bring Robert Kennedy Jr. into his cabinet to make America healthy again. He will finally get to the bottom of why our food companies are destroying the health of our children. I'm sick of the way the media lies continuously about Donald Trump, starting with the incessant racism claims. They're just nonsense. The latest thing I heard, reportedly, he sent his plane to fly Nelson Mandela home after he was in jail with the U.S. because the U.S. wouldn't do it. That's not a definition of a racist. I'm sick of the U.S. being embroiled in foreign wars. Trump will keep us out of them again. He's just crazy enough that foreign nations will stand down. They have no fear of Kamala Harris. They do and will continue to fear him. Trump sees this country as fundamentally good. Kamala sees it as inherently evil. Trump will end the nonsense of the open border, which makes our country less secure, less financially stable, and brings in millions of people illegally who compete for Americans' jobs. This government has to print billions to care for the illegals. That makes all of our dollars less valuable and makes prices zoom upward. He will stockpile Bitcoin. He will keep men out of women's bathrooms and women's sports. He is a heavyweight personality and negotiator. Kamala is a phony personality and a lightweight negotiator. The people who want Kamala Harris to win are the most annoying people in the country. They've pushed for pronouns, mass, endless this, cancel culture, riots, blatant racism toward whites, gender confusion, and undermining the U.S. Constitution. He will upset the current political system. He was nearly the victim of assassinations at least twice, possibly more, and he keeps going. He's not the best in interviews, but he at least puts himself out there over and over and over again. Kamala hasn't done one single major press conference. Harris and the media are trying to prop up her up, hid Biden's cognitive decline. They accuse Trump of being a real threat to democracy, yet she was installed as the nominee with no votes. She wants to pack the Supreme Court. She wants to eliminate the filibuster. She sued Robert Kennedy to keep him off the ballot. And the threat to democracy is Trump? Nonsense. Those who support Harris look at Trump's supporters as vile, stupid, ignorant, and fascist. They disown family members or disinvite them from Thanksgiving dinner of their support of Trump. This is disgraceful. Every time she talks, I try to give her a chance. But she's the most phony and condescending politician I have ever seen, ever. I can't do it. I won't do it. She and those who support her are resistant to voter ID and believe requiring an ID is racist. Her Department of Justice is suing the state of Virginia for trying to purge the voter rolls of illegals. Why would we not want one vote per one U.S. citizen? Is it more racist to believe people from the inner city are perfectly capable of securing a government-issued ID? Or to believe they are incapable? That's it. I'm done. Thanks for hearing me out. There you go. I suggest you take today's video and network it to all those you know and love. All those, even those that are visionless. They might have eyesight, but they're visionless. It's beyond blinders. They have multiple blindfolds on. They have multiple earmuffs on. Because it's evident. It's evident. If you want to put Americans' freedom first, the restitution of our constitutional republic first, then there's only one choice. Warts and all. One choice. Donald Trump. I thank you for joining me today. Now get to work. Get out there and vote. Get as many people out there to vote as you can. This business about, oh, my vote isn't worth anything. No, everybody's vote is worth something for the future of our republic. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.